Let's get started. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is how to handle the cue cards, specifically difficult cue cards, okay? So let's begin. Now, okay, so, all right, so please forgive the technical difficulties. Still very new to this, so I'm I ask for a little bit of patience and such. So, okay, so let's talk about the cue card first. The cue card is a long topic. It's the long talk in the IELTS speaking test. And you talk about a specific topic, such as a tall building in your city, or a person you admire, or an aquatic animal, or a bike ride, for instance. And the topics are usually relatable, and they're based usually, but not always, based on your experience. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about later, is how to handle those cards that you don't have experience or you don't really have much knowledge of. So now, like I said, for examples, a tall building in your city, a family member you admire, or a piece of local news that you found interesting. Now, there are 4 questions that come with the cue card. Those are bullet points, okay? So, for instance, this is what this is a cue card that you may get. Describe a skill that you can teach others. So the bullet points are: what skill is it? How did you acquire the skill? Why would you teach the skill? And how would you teach it? So, you don't need to answer all these questions, but you should. They're there to give you ideas, to help you think of what to say. And it also provides a bit of a structure for you to follow. And so using these bullet points are very helpful for you to handling the cue card. But now let's talk about the requirements of the cue card. So first, you have 1 minute to prepare, and then you have up to 2 minutes to speak. Now, your response should be complete with enough details, enough explanation, enough description to get your idea across, and so that it can be understood by the examiner. And that usually takes somewhere between 1.5 to 2 minutes, okay? So now, some general tips going into the cue card is, first of all, you want to explain and describe in details. This is very important because a lot of students lack ideas, and all they need to do is expand on their ideas in details. And this is what's called elaboration. So this is expanding on your explanations and descriptions. And then you can give examples, and don't be afraid to give examples, especially if you're talking about people you know, or a skill, for instance. Give an example, and give the example in details so that you can illustrate what you're trying to say. And then the meaning will become much richer and much more meaningful. Not only that, but using examples shows your ability to use tenses. And that's important because grammar, which tenses are a part of, covers 25% of your score. Now, explaining in detail, I've talked about this, but explaining in detail, this allows for better sentence structure and grammar as well. So that's important. So make sure you explain in detail. Another thing about details is that they add color and depth to your cue card. They help you to extend your answers, to fill in the time. And the key here is more being specific, using specific details. And then finally, you want to speak with feeling. Now, speaking with feeling, this offers better intonation. Now, you don't want to speak like a robot, kind of like this, because now you don't sound natural. You want to sound natural. This is important because this will be applied in pronunciation, and that covers 25% of your score. So you want to have some feeling into your speech. One thing, now, there are some things that you don't want to do. First of all, you don't want to repeat the question. If you could ask to have the question repeated, but that could take that. You don't want to have that done a lot. Maybe once or twice, ask to have the question repeated. But if you ask for every single question, then the scorer is going to think that you don't understand what he or she is saying. And so that can really affect your score. So try not to repeat the question. Make sure that you understand the question. Another thing is, don't have a long introduction. Sometimes I hear students who have very long introductions. They may go for 1 minute, 30 seconds to 1 minute before they mention the topic. You should have like one introductory sentence and then start. Then you should mention the topic. For instance, what skill do you could you teach? You could say something like, there are a number of skills I could teach, but the one skill I think I would like to teach is, and then you would name that skill. That's how you would handle that. And you can also see that from the example I have here on the screen. Another thing is, don't summarize at the end of your talk. What happens when you summarize, you end up repeating everything that you said. And what's going to happen is that's going to affect your score, because they don't want you repeating the same ideas. And that's what you're doing when you summarize. Just close with a single sentence. For instance, and that's my favorite park. Or that's why I admire my grandmother, something like that. Okay, so let's move on. Now, another thing you want to do for Cue Card is build a story. Now, some Cue Cards want to ask you to describe an experience. And this is where building a story, telling a story, treating it like a story, starting from the beginning, describing what happens, and then talking about how it ended, and then talking about how you felt about it. That's a good way of handling that type of Cue Card. So, for example, talking about a trip you took, talking about a time you lost an item. Those are good topics for telling a story. All right, now, building on your ideas. I mentioned this already, but again, this is a good example of how to build on your ideas by adding details. So, for example, what do you do for work? You could say, if you're a doctor, you could say, I'm a doctor, but don't leave it at that. Extend your answer by adding details. For example, the example I have here, I've been practicing medicine as a cardiologist for over 5 years, and so forth. If it were me, I could say I've been an IELTS instructor and other English test instructor for over 8 years, and I've helped hundreds of students achieve their goals. So that's how I would extend that. So make sure that you extend your answer. Now, how to handle difficult Cue Cards. That's what we're going to really talk about, okay? Now, difficult Cue Cards, basically the problem students present to me is that these are topics that they have no knowledge or experience in. So there's several ways you can handle it. First of all, think of things you learned in school. Maybe if it's about an aquatic animal, for instance. And so in school, you studied about dolphins. Try to remember what you learned back then. If it's a particular law, say an environmental law, try to remember that law that you learned about. If it's about other cities or countries as well, one question could be, talk about a country that you would like to live in. So if you learned about a particular country in school, try to remember what you learned. Another thing to do is to look up different cue cards and then read something about that's related to it. For example, let's take a city you would like to live in. So just pick a city that you're interested in. So it could be like New York or Toronto or London. Pick a city and learn about it. You want to learn about the culture there, the opportunities, educational, vocational opportunities, the attractions there, things of that nature. And that way you'll have things to talk about. Also, another thing is to read a lot about different topics that IELTS would ask, such as environment, festivals, newspapers, technology, art. And there's other subjects as well, home and family, plants. So you can read about these topics, get some basic knowledge and such. Another thing you can do is watch documentary videos or short informative videos that would cover IELTS topics. So these would all give you ideas and things to say. Another thing is you can research different cue cards online. You can find all kinds of different topics online. And so what you can do is take that topic, if you think it's difficult, read about it. Find some material on that topic and read about it. So if you're talking about a building in your city, find a particular building, like a historical building in your city. Find a historical building in your city and try to find information about it, for example. Okay, now I mentioned some common IELTS topics here. So these are this is just a small list that I have here of common IELTS topics for you. So, but expand on it. Look at different cue cards online, and you'll be able to identify all the different topics that that IELTS covers. And this is also good for general questions and follow-up questions as well. Now, let's talk about how to answer some of these cue cards. So describe a foreign country or city in your or city in your country that you've never been to but want to live in. So how would you handle it? So, like I said before, pick a country or a city, then read about it. Read about its culture, opportunities, standard of living. That's an important thing. You want to consider like healthcare, access to medical care. The cost of living is also another important thing. Is the country or the city expensive to live in? Or is it relatively inexpensive? You want to think of infrastructure. What type of infrastructure is there? Then attractions. Attractions are parks and museums, restaurants, other recreational facilities. And then once you have all this information, then you can start thinking about why you want to live there. And so then you're preparing for that type of question. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Now, here, talk about a museum trip or amusement park you've visited. Well, okay. If you've never visited a museum or amusement park, and for a lot of people, this may actually be true. So, how would you handle this topic? Okay, how would you handle it? Well, one thing, if there's a museum or amusement park in your city or nearby, you can go there and spend the day. And that way you can talk about your experience. If not, then you could change the subject slightly. You could say, I've never been to an amusement park, but the park I would like to talk about is Disney World. And so, pick a park or museum that you have heard of, and then go find out information about it. You can find all kinds of information on the internet about different museums and parks. So that's how you can handle that type of a topic. Now, what about talking about an aquatic animal that you've seen? You may have seen aquatic animals on television or in movies, so you can mention those things. You don't necessarily, a lot of times students think that they have to talk about things that they've actually seen in person, but you don't have to. You can say, I would like to talk about a dolphin, which I've seen on television in numerous shows, or I've seen on videos on the internet. And then you talk about your what you know about the dolphin. Now, again, here, what you could do is something like this, or if it's like an animal, what you can do is pick one, read about it, and then talk about it. So in this case, you might want to pick one marine animal, a fish, or a marine mammal like a dolphin or whale, and then maybe some wild animal. You could get asked about wild animals. So you might want to talk about lions or elephants for that matter. And then you just read about those animals. And that's how you can handle that topic. Okay, now that's it for, how to handle the topics, difficult topics. Just go and research them. It doesn't take a lot of time to do that, okay? And by doing that, that will give you ideas. It will give you information and details of what to talk about. And I really suggest that you do this so you can prepare for these difficult cue cards. You may not get a difficult cue card, but at least you will be prepared for one. And that will help you do much better with these. Okay, so now I want to talk about my IELTS Tutor. It's the services that we offer. So we offer premium live training to all our students. In this, you get writing, for instance, writing detailed analysis and feedback. You get live reading discussions, one-to-one speaking, and ebooks, PDFs, grammar ebooks. We have a Band 9 essay bank, but not only for essays, letters, and academic writing task 1. We have a bank for those. We also have proven tips and strategies in live sessions, such as this. We also have vocabulary building tools. One of the things we're doing is live Instagram reels. And some of those are also pronunciation reels. So you'll have access to those. Free access to daily idea generation live class for both speaking and writing. Detailed one-to-one speaking feedback and analysis. So this is where you're going to meet with the tutor, such as me, and we're going to practice speaking together. And I'm going to give you feedback, and I'm going to tell you where you can do better. We're also going to help you understand the marking criteria for the different IELTS sections. We also have complete mock tests with detailed analysis and in-class discussions. Individual practice tests on reading and listening. 8-band reading strategy for improved accuracy. And And we offer a customized study plan for each and every individual. And that's important because everyone is different and everyone progresses at different levels, and everyone has different difficulties and different strengths. And so we tailor our approach to your needs. So we have small classrooms. We don't have large online classes, small ones. So where we can give you the most attention as possible. This is unlike other institutes where you are in a class full of 20 or 30 people. And so the instructor's just trying to get through the material and hopefully teach you what you need to know. We're going to ensure that you know what you need to know. Now, this is some of our staff, myself, Nana Chabra, and Ms. Amita. These are the primary instructors for my IELTS tutor, and we're very happy to work with you and serve you. These are some of our recent results, 8 bands, 7.5 bands. Most of our students do really well, 7+ and over. Okay, and your bands are our responsibility. This means that we do everything we can to help you get the score you need, the score you want. And so that's our commitment. That's our agreement to you. And finally, we have a special offer. Our original price is $9.99, but now we're offering for a limited period a package of 3,999 rupees. In this one, you'll get access to certified trainers. You'll get PDFs, ebooks, and practice material. You'll get 9-band writing templates and sample answers of all modules. And okay, now let me see if there are any comments. No comments. Okay, so apparently there's no comments. So that's pretty much it for IELTS for my presentation. Remember that we're here to help you crack IELTS, to score the highest that you can achieve in IELTS. And so that's it for today. I want to thank you for joining me. I really appreciate you being here. It's certainly been a pleasure meeting with you. If you want more information about my IELTS tutor, please click on the link below. Someone from our organization will get back to you as soon as possible. And be sure to like, share, and comment on this session. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much. That's it for today. I'll see you next time.